And so there I was, scrolling aimlessly through my For You page. A poor title, I would argue, as I would hate to be defined solely by the contents that platform chooses to show me, but nonetheless, there I was. Eyes locked in, brains off, scrolling through the muck. The dance challenges, the screen recordings of old cable TV shows, the millennial ranting, all of it. That's when it first started. Once we all thought that there was nothing here but mindless entertainment, once we thought that we were all sucked into a mountain of meaningless nothing, that's when it first showed face. But that song. That fucking song.
Real RX. I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning. Heard mama crying last night, think the lights finna go out.
This video is about CoreCore. When I first sat down to write the script for this video, it started as a history lesson. I kind of took the approach of trying to explain to you all what CoreCore is, why it happened, where it came from, you know, all that bullshit. But I hated it. It was completely unemotional, and it lacked any kind of depth, and it wasn't entertaining. So I took a few weeks to completely rewrite it, do a full rehaul, and that's what you're sitting here watching now. I'll let the video speak for itself, but I just wanted to come on here and thank everyone for being so supportive during the wait. I know it's been ages since I last uploaded, but I put a lot of work into this video, so I hope you see that it shows, and of course, I hope you enjoy.
We are consuming content nowadays at like Mach fucking 3 speed. I feel like I watched more videos last week alone than like someone born in like the 30s watched in their entire lifetime.
Hey everyone, welcome back to me being late to Viral Trends for the second time in a row. The only show that'll have you saying, where was this guy months ago? How's everyone doing? Yeah? We all comfortable? Everyone cozy? Me? Thank you for asking me. I'm doing great. Me personally. I've just been silently romanticizing the melancholy that comes with being 20 and living comfortably enough to realize that I'm nothing in the grand scheme of things through the lens of TikTok content. So, about the same as everyone else, I guess you could say. By the way, do you guys remember that whole, the pandemic thing? Yeah? You remember that? That crazy... Wasn't that a crazy time? Isn't it funny when I say these things sarcastically, you know, as if we all weren't there and, you know, in the pandemic and it wasn't like a major staple of our generation? Do you guys remember that? This is a good bit. Me personally, I had a rough go of it during that time period, like I know a lot of people did. While living a healthy life in the confines of an air-conditioned home with a fully stocked fridge and running water might sound like the beginning of a Luca Guadagnino movie starring Timothée Chalamet, in reality, this time period was really hard on a fuck ton of people. And not to get too into it, but I myself consider that time to be one of the hardest of my life. I was cut off from friends, from family, from school, you know. I beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey twice. I beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey twice. With the DLC, so that's what, you know what, with the Atlantis and the, you know, twice. I beat Assassin's Creed Odyssey twice. But because of a complete lack of drive from me and a total loss of effort from my teachers, I fell back into the digital version of the Clockwork Orange scene, TikTok. 2021 and 2022 came and went, but that instinct to kind of lay in bed and sit scrolling for hours and hours on end never really left me. And of course, over time, the virus started to settle and things went relatively back to normal. But obviously, something was still wrong. The World Health Organization reported that there was an increase of 25% in depression and anxiety during the pandemic years, a number that had already been steadily growing, especially among teens, before the pandemic even started. To kind of summarize what I'm trying to say, COVID was a breaking point. And while I don't really have concrete evidence that the trend that I'm about to talk about was caused by lockdowns and pandemics, I feel like it makes the most sense to me. But we'll get back to that later. Much like I talked about in the beginning of this video, TikTok in 2022 hadn't really changed much. Most of the content on there was pretty mind-numbing and just overall comfortable, but I think that made it a perfect breeding ground for something new and creative. It was a platform not yet conquered. Every other social media platform has their kind of artsy spaces, you know? YouTube has the ARGs and the cinematic shorts. Instagram has good graphic design and photography. Twitter has that one tweet about the reincarnated dog. It was time for something new to hit TikTok. Something built out of the repetitive meme templates. Something grounding that represented the people who felt like their emotions were worth sharing. Something like this.
Real RX. I used to wake up in my room in the morning, put on my dirty shoes in the morning. Heard mama crying last night, think the lights finna go out. Only thing my mind is hitting the lake. A nigga in prison for doing some shit. Say I'ma go to prison for doing some shit. Only thing on my mind is booming a bitch.
Okay, so for context, TikTok has a feature called Slideshows, where users can upload photos onto the app and then put, sounds or songs underneath them so that people can scroll through the photos while listening to the music at their leisure. And these can be used for absolutely anything, whether it be meme compilations or how-to tutorials or pictures of cats with mysterious liquid on their snouts. I mean, you name it, it's there. Around the start of 2022, however, the tone of the slideshows started to take a shift. A song by RX Poppy and Good called 12 Stout Street has started to go viral and make the rounds online. The song is incredibly depressing, and it chronicles the artist's stories of growing up in a rough neighborhood and being forced into violence and how that kind of affects them now. And clearly, this introspective and emotional track evokes something in people. The ability to express pain publicly through a medium was now becoming possible to the layman and average TikTok user, which I think is something that some people might not have been exposed to before this song went viral. And so began the trend of the depressing slideshows. People would find or make memes about living through agonizing mental pain, cultivate them, put them in a slideshow, and then post them on TikTok with the 12 Stout Street song playing underneath them. People were creating TikTok pages where this was the only thing they were posting. I mean, entire communities were being built just around this one song. I've even seen posts now in 2023 talking about hearing that song in present day and being taken back to 2022 and remembering the emotions that came with watching those slideshows. I myself remember finding these TikToks on my page and feeling slightly comforted. It felt like finally people were willing to start talking about how awful we all felt since the events of the last few years. And of course, this brings us all the way back to the pandemic. The events of the early 2020s, at least in my opinion, gave the people of my demographic a strong feeling of camaraderie that I really feel like started to show face during this time. I think it's also worth mentioning that around this time period, the phrase real started getting thrown around, especially in comment sections. The word started getting mass commented underneath these slideshows as a sign of solidarity from people. Real became the Gen Z equivalent of what relatable is to millennials. These posts were given the name niche talk, which I guess is supposed to make viewers feel like they're part of some underground, niche sect of the internet. To me, these slideshows are where a story really starts. Because, time passes. 12 Stout Street lost popularity, and these slideshows turned from these sad expressions of emotion into sped up duster songs with funny memes over them. It became nothing. The slideshow era had come and passed, and it was time for a new king to rule over the attention spans of men who probably need therapy. For a brief period, the community turned really toxic. Posts started popping up supporting problematic figures, both real and fictional. I think of characters like Travis Bickle or people like Jordan Peterson. The only progress made during this time was the switch from slideshows to actual edited videos. I don't remember where I was when I first saw one. Maybe I was sitting in bed, maybe I was in class, but I was scrolling and I stumbled across a video labeled #CoreCore. It was like the videos and slideshows that I had seen before, but it was also different. It had a distinct style, like when you're watching a movie and you can tell who directed it just from watching the visuals. And there was a theme to the video, which is something that the slideshows usually lacked. It was deeper than random memes scrambled over a hip-hop song. It wasn't just some male teenager romanticizing Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. It was insightful. It was tasteful, even. And I felt connected. Something was starting to boil underneath all of this, and I was excited to see where it would go. What would become of these videos? Okay, so there are 3 elements that make up a CoreCore video. The first is the audio that the video is set to. This usually includes emotional music, but I'll link a playlist down below to give you greater context of the kinds of songs that are used with these videos. But sometimes it's also not just music. Sometimes the creators add in dialogue or audio from the clips they're showing in the actual video. The second aspect is the media that's shown on screen. It can be photos, it can be videos, it can be text, it can be clips from movies, it can be home videos. I've seen some people use clips of their dogs in the morning. Literally anything you can put on the screen. And the last aspect that makes a CoreCore video is the narrative. In the beginning, most people chose broader topics to make videos about. anger, grief, repressed emotions, etc. But over time, I've seen them get more niche and more pressing. Climate change, surveillance, social media addiction, beauty standards, gender norms. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of things that people have made videos about. The accounts that make the best CoreCore videos, in my opinion, are the ones that add in fun little twists or unique elements that make them stand out. I think of people like High Inquiries, Cinelocker, Milyari, Max Reeves, the Cart4V, V7 Kane, Spiders, and my personal favorites, Dylan Cherry and User Not Found 404 Error. When I see these accounts pop up on my screen, I know who's made them and what I'm in store for before they even start, which is extremely hard to do when none of these people show their faces. I can tell just from their style who they are. They've taken the broader idea of CoreCore and have repackaged it in their own style. And it's fucking beautiful. It's hard to describe the way these videos make me feel without sounding cheesy. I can't sit here and tell you that I've had some incredibly tough life, or that I've endured just as much mental stress as these video creators come off as sometimes, because I'm not, and I haven't. I've definitely struggled before. I would even say that I'm struggling now, but I've never been prescribed antidepressants. I haven't had some major traumatic event occur in my life that changed me as a person, at least not yet, fingers crossed. I might even argue that I have imposter syndrome for my own emotions. I mean, sometimes I get angry for feeling sad because some people are sadder. But I never feel that with these videos. If you ever have time to scroll through a CoreCore comment section, it's devastating because people will pour their hearts out. But it's also beautiful because these are reactions to a piece of art. Now don't get it twisted, there are plenty of CoreCore videos and accounts where the ideas become repetitive and stale, and the clips are the same fucking scene from Blade Runner, or that David Chase interview with Joe Rogan. But you could say the same thing about any medium. I mean, fuck, I think there are like 20 different dating shows that for some reason take place on an island. Like, why does that matter? You could just as easily set that shit in a house or a resort. It'd probably save the producers millions of money because I don't know, I can't imagine it would be cheap to rent out an island. But I don't know. I just like CoreCore videos. They make me feel harder. I started work on this video back in December of 2022, and I have saved pretty much every CoreCore video that I've seen ever since. This script has gone through iteration after iteration after iteration. I try to do research on TikTok trends to try to put together a timeline of the events that I've talked about in these videos. At one point, I tried to write a section about how to make a good CoreCore video. I don't know. At one point, I even tried to make a section about the differences between niche core and pink core and CoreCore, and it all blew up in my face. But there was something that I hadn't tried that completely shifted the direction of this video. There's an account on TikTok called 123 Deep Breath. Their videos used clips from movies that I love and hadn't seen used before, like Meantime, or Naked, or Mishima, or The Worst Person in the World. They liked the music that I liked, like Mount Erie, or the All Quiet on the Western Front soundtrack. And their profile picture is a photo that I took in my friend's kitchen with my film camera just last year. Because it's my account.
Don't you realize how you're being exploited? How the people who control the money are diminishing your existence to working in a fucking dirty factory which puts black smoke up in the air, which pollutes the entire world, and you're working your ass off saving money for your kids, getting pennies while they're making hundreds and hundreds of dollars?
So, I started my own account. This was months ago, and I only posted 4 videos, but still, I'm currently on TikTok now as a CoreCore poster. My initial goal was to try to figure out what made a CoreCore video go viral. So, with each new video, you can see me kind of experimenting with different styles and different techniques, whether that be changing the text on screen, using different clips, using different songs, changing the aspect ratio. I mean, I tried a million different things just within those 4 videos. During the time that I was posting, the internet became my virtual scrapbook. I stopped scrolling through TikTok for fun and began scrolling for research. I would see a video of a guy playing with money, and I would go, oh fuck, I can use that for a video on capitalism or greed. I would find live streams of people begging for attention and think, oh, I can use that on a video about social media addiction or about narcissism. I would even scroll through my own letterbox to try to think of good movie clips that I could use that would back up different ideas or different narratives. Each video took about a full day to make, and I was convinced that I was going to make one every day until I struck gold. The first video did alright, then the second one tanked. The third one was the least viewed by far, and then the last one, my personal favorite, barely did good enough to get the second place spot as far as views go. So you might think, oh, alright, clearly you made an attempt and then you weren't doing well views-wise, so you lost faith and quit. But that's not it. I loved making those videos. I mean, editing and content creation is my shit. I just... It is very hard to go from someone who watches CoreCore content to someone who makes it. I mentioned earlier that consuming and watching CoreCore videos was something that was comforting to me. It makes me feel less alone. I like seeing what these people have to say. It's emotional. It's something that I enjoyed. But when you're making it, you have to be in this constant and persistent state of negativity always. Because like I said, TikTok feeds and movies and music are your playground. It's where you pull your clips from. It's where you get the content. And so songs that used to be happy become sad because you're trying to figure out ways to use them in videos. And same thing with the movies that I loved and pictures. And so I quit. I spent 4 days making these videos, and I mentally couldn't take it. Because you have to be so pessimistic. Your view has to always be negative, and that's not how the world is. It can't be that way. Things can't be just bad. So I quit. And I stayed away for a bit. I turned TikTok off, and I just stopped scrolling. And then Ke Huy Quan won an Oscar.
What am I doing with my life?
During my last few semesters at college, I had a professor and a mentor who taught classes about posthumanism. We would have these incredibly tough hour-long conversations about the future of humanity and technology and death. But at the end of every class, this man, who dedicated his life to warning people about the future and its possible shortcomings, would always say, "We have to have hope." I've tried to take this outlook and apply it to everything that I can. To lose faith in the ability of people to be good is something that I wouldn't wish on anybody, and definitely not myself. This is kind of where HopeCore comes in. I see HopeCore kind of as CoreCore's cooler older cousin, because really it's the exact same format. It's media and then songs and a narrative pushed into one and posted on TikTok. But instead of dealing with heavier topics, HopeCore takes the format and flips it on its head and makes videos about positive things. The reason why I mentioned Ke Huy Quan is because him and Brendan Fraser winning an Oscar kind of sparked this event to happen. They kind of became the unofficial mascots of HopeCore. People would post videos of their Oscar speeches with Frank Sinatra's My Way playing underneath it to kind of remind people that you can lose your way and find success again. This was happening around the same time as the Indomitable Human Spirit memes were coming around, which was basically just a way of showcasing humanity's ability to overcome adversity in common ways. Another big aspect of HopeCore is that it adopted Albert Camus' philosophies very early on. For those who don't know, Albert Camus was a writer who wrote things like The Myth of Sisyphus or The Stranger, but he's most known for his philosophy of absurdism. To kind of summarize what absurdism is, it's basically the idea that we are not here on this planet for any reason, and there is no meaning to life. So the only way to create meaning for yourself is to rebel against this absurd situation and live life on your own terms. That was a gross oversimplification, but you can see how it's important to know in the context of HopeCore. HopeCore is basically there to say, hey, listen, things suck. There are horrible things going on, and we cannot ignore them, and they must be solved. But you can't forget that you're still alive, and that you're breathing, and that you're fine. We have the option of acknowledging our current situations without losing the freedom that we are still alive. Which is beautiful. But it's difficult. This weird dynamic between these two forces is so strange, and I feel like I'm right in the middle of it. I watch CoreCore videos and I see violence, I see terror, I see horrible things, and I feel so shitty. I lose hope. I lose faith in the goodness of the world. And then I see these HopeCore videos, and I read the works of Camus, and I watch movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I go back to feeling like I need to live this hopeful life where I see destruction and say what my professor tells me every class, we must have hope. But these sentiments only lead to guilt. Oh, boo-hoo, I'm so plagued with watching bad things happen to people that aren't me. It's this weird dilemma that I think a lot of people in my age and demographic are in right now. And I know I'm not alone in this, especially after recently watching Paul Schrader's First Reformed, a film that I recommend you watch if what I'm saying even feels slightly relatable. I wish I could say that there was one right answer, one correct emotion to feel about the times. I don't have that. But I do know that all of this talk, all of this thinking, all of these emotions were sparked by pasted together video clips posted onto an app meant for dance videos and food challenges. And I think that's pretty damn impressive in itself. As time has passed, CoreCore has changed and evolved. There was a period of a few months where things started to get stale and repetitive, and I thought this might just be another viral trend that slowly dies out until it's gone. But because of all of these incredibly talented individuals, this movement has stayed alive, and I'm very happy to report that my feed stays bombarded with CoreCore videos to this day. So I want to end this video by thanking anyone who has ever tried or succeeded in creating any kind of CoreCore or CoreCore adjacent content. I genuinely hope you know how much your work is appreciated. And I know some of you might be watching this and thinking that I'm overvaluing these videos, or that I'm being pretentious by calling them art. And fuck, who knows? You know, maybe you're right, but look at the screen right now. I bet at this point you may have recognized some of the creators, or even some of the clips they're using. Look at all these people trying to express themselves or trying to make a point. Isn't it, at the minimum, a bit impressive? Doesn't a tinge of you feel interested in what they have to say? Don't you want to know what comes next?